Hello and happy Friday, and thanks for tuning into RadioFreeRhinecliff.org and this show in particular. Correct me if I'm Norm. I'm your host, Norm. I'm thrilled to be here tonight with Laura Pensiero of Gigi Trattoria. Laura, thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you, Norm. Happy to be here.
We were just talking, and I found this a very interesting topic about the nature of the show. And I said, look, I never have any gotcha moments because that's not what the show's about. And we were talking about how in a small town, when you live for long enough, you have gotcha information about almost everybody. And
actually, I don't.
I was just going to say, and I think if you run a restaurant and a bar, maybe especially a bar, you have even more gotcha information on local residents.
See, that's a big myth. Like,
Is it?
For me, I really stay in my lane, stay in my space. I'm interested in so many different things, and I have so many projects out there that I really don't have the bandwidth for other stuff.
Right.
So it kind of goes in, goes out. Doesn't mean I don't care if somebody's like, obviously after 25 years, I have a lot of cherished guests and friendships. And when people choose to share stuff on a friendship level, it goes in. Otherwise, it sort of bounces. Because, it's, I just, you have only so much space for the things you really love to do.
I know. Yeah, I feel that increasingly as I get older. I don't want to fill my mind up with stuff that is just not important.
It's not mine.
Yeah. And you said 25 years. Congratulations. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's September, about a week after 9/11. So because we opened, I'd say, like almost exactly a week after 9/11 in 2001.
Wow. So you'd been planning this well before 9/11. Restaurants don't just pop up.
Absolutely. Yeah. I actually, I was married then, had a weekend house in the area, was up one dreary March weekend in 2001, saw that sign up. I have some great photos too from before the build out of that garage space.
Right.
It was a Chevrolet garage prior. And there was a sign up in the window, restaurant space. And being a weekender, I thought, wow, if somebody could come up here, keep it simple, keep it like bistro, trattoria, and fun, it would go crazy. Because from my experience back then, if you only get 48 hours and less, because at that time I was married to an executive chef in New York, so we'd come up for 24 hours. You really don't want to go out to dinner and have this experience where you're sitting there all night long. And that tended to be more of the restaurant scene back in those days. It was a lot of graduates from the CIA spreading their wings, experimenting, and everything was either just a little too fussy. And we wanted to bring the trattoria experience to Rhinebeck, and the timing was great. So we built the space out over the course of, like, say, March to, I wanted to open in, obviously still in the season in July or August, but things were running behind. So we pushing, and then it looked like the paint was still wet, and we're like, let's open. And then 9/11 happened, and we said we have to go forward. And actually it was a great decision because people came up here a lot, and they didn't want to they were scared. They didn't want to be home alone. They wanted to be around other people. They wanted exactly the type of experience that Gigi was and still is, like a place where you can recognize people and move your chair and go say hello to someone, and just share, as in like a more of a community experience, which is exactly what a trattoria should be. Right. So it just kind of solidified what we were at that moment, and I've carried on in that tradition.
And you, Pensiero, I'm guessing have some Italian roots.
Yes, Sicilian actually. Yeah.
Sicilian. And did your partner have Italian roots as well?
Yeah, he was. That was my ex-husband. He was from Veneto area of Italy. Okay. And I bought him out in 2003. Oh. And I think the bets were all on the table that I would tank that restaurant in a year. And here I am.
Yeah. Well, again, double congratulations. It's an amazing feat. And as the producer, Jen, here pointed out, maybe more amazing for being a woman in this male business.
It's
or a woman
it definitely is
a
different sort of challenge. And, I I think I even resisted even calling myself a chef for many years because, the boys out there are like, oh, she's not a chef. I am a chef, actually, yeah. I went to the French Culinary Institute. I've been in this industry before I even Gigi, I was ghosting cookbooks for very famous chefs. And I've been in this culture in this space for a really long time. And I love it still.
And where is the French Culinary Institute?
It was on Broadway and Grand in
right.
Soho.
Uh-huh.
It's now, I think it's ICC. They've kind of merged.
Okay.
International Culinary Center, I believe it is.
And so you went there, you graduated there. Did you specialize in any particular kind of?
It was all French cooking and technique back then, and it was fabulous. It was really small, and I could work. I was a dietitian by day, so I was working at where I had done my nutrition residency at Long Island College Hospital in Brooklyn. And then I'd scoot with my chef bag, catch the train, and head out. And by night, during the day, I'm telling people to watch their butter. And at night, I was clarifying it at the French Culinary Institute. And I had the best experience. The school was, at that time, I think, like Bobby Flay and like a lot of people came out of the French Culinary Institute. And the classes were small. The instruction was phenomenal. And at any given moment, Jacques Pepin, Alain Sayac, André Soltner, or Jacques Therese would walk by, and Jacques Pepin stopped me one time and showed me personally how to do my omelet. That's how close it was. It was just really amazing.
What a blast.
It was. And afterwards, I managed to work with them on some projects, like book projects and nutrition projects, and always these, I call them the rascals. These French chefs were just the right type of giving, mentoring, slightly flirtatious, but not inappropriate. It was, you hear a lot of bad stuff in the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
These guys, these rascals were the best, and they were always begging me for another teaspoon of butter.
Right. That's
The nutritionist.
The French. And do you think that that's gotten worse over the years? Sort of the sexist rascallions and the...
I think, humor's always good. And I have a personality. I can roll with a lot of things.
Right.
Not everybody can, and I'm not saying everybody, needs to or should look at things in the same lens as me. But it's tough. It's definitely tough. Like, I've worked in kitchens in New York City where, it's just not for me. But, it is tough for a female in this industry. It's just, it's a respect thing. It's just a culture of anyone that's in this industry that's worked on a line will tell you that being a woman on a cooking line is a totally different thing. It's not that it can't be done. It's just, women are so smart about how they take the edges off of situations and, make everything okay and roll with the punches. But it's tough.
Yeah. And so when you were there at the French Culinary Institute, what did you have your sights set on? What did you think you wanted to do after you graduated?
I went there to be a better dietitian.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I found, how am I going to really impart any wisdom on someone if I really don't know how to speak to food? I mean, I always loved cooking, and I think I always wanted to go to culinary school, but my real motivation at that point was seeing people, in a hospital setting, in an acute care setting, where it was just 20 years too late for the type of instruction, and it wasn't really practical or doable. My goal was always to show people, what they need to do, because I think a lot of people innately know what they should be doing. It's just that bridge between what you should be doing and how to do it,
Right.
and how to make it part of your lifestyle. So for me, that was that gradual road into prevention and preventive medicine.
Right.
Started with going to the French Culinary Institute.
Huh. And you said somewhere in something I read that you wrote that if you want people to eat right, it needs to be delicious.
That's the first, number one, because
There you go.
how do you move on from if it's not doable and it's not delicious, you're going nowhere with it.
Right.
And that's why I gravitate personally towards the Mediterranean diet, because you really don't need to do too much to the food. You just follow time-tested traditions and follow the seasons and, put good ingredients together, and it becomes magical. And by the way, it's healthy too.
Yeah. And did you grow up eating a Mediterranean diet?
Maybe half-time. I had like a Scottish-Irish side of the family and a Sicilian side. And one was in Cold Spring and one was in Garrison. So we would go first to the Italians in Cold Spring and enjoy some Sicilian cooking, and then we would have to act like we did not eat, and then we'd go travel up the road to Garrison and have maybe some pot roast and potatoes.
Right. Some underspiced pot roast and potatoes. I've had Scottish home cooking, and I think they never had pepper. The family I ate with.
Not good for the stomach.
Yeah. Well, that's so interesting. So, did you cook anything that's sort of a melange of Scottish and Italian?
No, I'm pretty firmly I like experimenting with all ethnic foods really at home.
Right.
At Gigi, I think being Mediterranean gives us license to go into the land of spices and herbs and North Africa, south of France, Italian. I mean,
right.
I think Gigi more or less started as a regional Italian restaurant, but I've evolved it to a Mediterranean restaurant, and then accumulating with my book Hudson Valley Mediterranean, which came out in around 2009. That's when I really sealed the deal. This is where I'm at, and the way I look at the Hudson Valley in terms of ingredients and food, and how they can basically, wherever you live, if you're following seasonal cooking, you can make it Mediterranean. So that was sort of my.
And you say seasonal. What's coming up? What foodstuffs are coming up in the next week or 4 weeks or 5 weeks or whatever that you're looking forward to?
If you're tired of root vegetables, it's going to get good and and green. I think that after this winter, we're all done with braising, stewing, and roots.
Yeah.
So, we're going to have sweet peas, asparagus, fiddlehead ferns, radishes, tender greens. Everything is coming. And it's just such a nice lighter shift in cooking after a long winter.
And do you buy directly from local farmers raising this stuff, or is there sort of a distributor?
When I had Gigi Market up in Red Hook, I bought from 60 farms and food producers. Thanks to people like Patricia Wind, she has the app, the Farm to Table app, and it makes it a lot easier to. I used to run around to all these farms, and then they all had different delivery days if they did deliver, and all of the invoices were like chicken scratch on a piece of paper. So just even from an accounting point of view, it was just a lot more complicated.
Right.
I think what Farm to Table's doing is amazing, and even smaller distribution companies like Baldor carry a lot of local products, so it's just it's much easier.
Right. Let me just add for people listening, Patricia Wind owns the Epicurean here, a corner store committed to having foods within 100-mile radius of where this store is located, a few miles from Gigi Trattoria. And she lets us broadcast from the back room, from the Nook here, the Epicurean. So, yeah, we all love Patricia Wind.
Yeah.
We all also love a Rhinebeck resident whose house I can see from here, named Rich Reeves. And Rich Reeve is coming to be a guest chef at Gigi Trattoria.
That's right, yes.
When does that start up?
Well, it's this week. We're celebrating St. Patrick's Day from the 12th to the 17th with Rich. And I would never do this but without his expertise in Irish cooking. And I've always done a special skeeza or something sort of to mark the holiday, but a full menu like this is his lane, and it's delicious.
And so he's going to be there for a week?
Yes, yeah, he's been there prepping this week, and we'll start the menu tomorrow. And we'll run it lunch and dinner right up until St. Patrick's Day.
And he's really one of the most revered chefs in this area.
He's an amazing chef. I've been a big fan of Rich since he and Maya had Elephant in Kingston.
Right.
I actually wrote a funny article about them. I used to have a column in River Chronicle called Laura's Local Dish, and I wrote a piece on restaurants and marriage. I even poked fun at myself for mine not lasting, but it was just, it's like there's so many people in our area. Like I call it Noah's Ark up here. People don't come up alone. They come up in pairs.
Right. That's funny.
And they, a lot of husband-wife duos get into the industry together. So I spotlighted them in this particular piece because I was a huge fan and still am.
Yeah, they're both so sweet. And Elephant was, when I went there for the first time, my mind was just blown. I was just over the moon. I'm like, no, something was wrong. And I had to come back to taste things, make sure they were all as good as they were.
Oh, yeah.
Really mind-blowing.
And remember the amazing thing was he cooked out of like toaster ovens and, not even a full
pads.
Industrial kitchen.
Yeah.
Well, he's doing the same thing in my prep area in my basement right now at Gigi, which is so funny. He's back home.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
And he's masterful at it.
It's so good. And on the menu, which you brought, it starts with the Shamrock Spritz, Drumshanbo Irish Gin, Saint Germain, pear syrup, mint, and topped with soda. And you also brought some Shamrock Spritzes for us to enjoy.
Yes, my server captain, Holly Way, came up with this recipe, and it's not too boozy. It's like nice and light going into spring. Little green, as you can see.
Yeah.
And
can we dig in?
Oh, sure.
Oh, good. All right, you'll have to talk amongst yourselves while I pour this. Actually, I'll read the rest of the menu.
It looks delicious.
Rich's Guinness and treacle brown bread, which is famous. He was at Bia most recently here in Rhinebeck. Oh boy, Jenny, you gonna have some of this?
Thank you.
You know, pour it like this, get it in the cup. Hopefully, this will be a good sound effect. And cheers, Laura. Thanks for coming in and bringing this
Cheers.
yummy.
This has a little pear syrup in it, so it has like it's not sweet, but you can taste the.
Oh, that is so, so good. I need to read the rest of the menu, if that's okay. Rich's Guinness and treacle brown bread, Irish butter, Irish smoked salmon, trout roe and chives. A soup, cottage beef and barley. A salad, a skitza, which is your dish.
Yes.
And he's making it with mashed potato spread, crumbled black pudding, watercress, and Irish cheddar. Where did the skitza come from? This is a really famous dish at Gigi.
Yeah, it's a it's a recipe that has some. I tried to actually do it on an industrial level. I was on a public board of a food company, and the CEO offered to get that into kits because I was selling those kits at Gigi Market, and it would come like a roll-up, like a big cigar with all the fillings inside for people to make it home. The one complicating factor of going anywhere with that is the skitza isn't a tortilla, and most food companies were going in that direction, like because they had
For the base.
Yeah, and not just the recipe, but the sheeting of it, like because they had the equipment to sheet tortillas, but not necessarily something like this. So we kind of hit pause on it back then because we couldn't quite get it right. But it's non-leavened, it's very thin, and it's like pasta, the base for all the good stuff that you can top it with.
Right.
So it's, I've sold between Gigi Market, kits, and different outlets where I've sold them, and the restaurant, over 1 million over these years. I'm like McDonald's.
It's amazing. Well, what percentage of your week's sales are skitzas?
Depends on the day of week, time of year. But all right, so like on a weekly basis, maybe 25%.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And do your chefs get tired of making them?
No, because we always juice up the toppings for, like they take on whatever holiday, whatever, we're
Gotcha.
celebrating. And we have a weekly special, so always do something, ask for their input on what they want to do on like a
Right.
weekly special.
Love that. So were you the chef when you were starting out?
At Gigi, no.
No.
And I call myself the accidental restaurateur. I'm probably going to write a book about this one day.
I like that title.
Yes. I'm at my base. I am like a foodie nutritionist who loves public health and nutrition, and I ended up in the restaurant business for now 25 years. So I am very accidental in this, but
Right.
I also like change, and that's one thing restaurants always bring. Like every day, no problem is the same from day to day. Everything needs a solution, and I've really learned a lot. Like the restaurant industry has taught me diplomacy. It's taught me about reactions and non-reactions and the power of both, and it's taught me how to manage people. It's taught me about people. Like I can essentially, not 100% of the time, but read people pretty quickly, because you need to, and you need to. Whole goal is to give people what they want, and part of that is understanding. Maybe they just had a bad day and they want to be left alone. Maybe they want some company. Maybe, they're very happy if you remember a food allergy, or there's all sorts of like subtle cues that people give off. And I mean, the strangest time was during COVID, when you couldn't read a lot of these cues, or people were so absorbed in a different level of fear that
Right.
you don't even know if you were seeing the person behind the mask.
Right.
It's like it was just it was so much more challenging than anything else that's ever kind of gone on in my span at Gigi.
And what did you all do? How did that affect you? Oh,
We did what everybody around here did. Did takeout as we could. I got right on. I put my public health hat on, and I just, I did full air purification at the restaurant. I worked with this guy, Franz Stafford, who's up in Columbia County and does architectural glass, and he put in these beautiful panels between the tables that I decorated with every season, because I recognized that this wasn't just physical fear, it was psychological long after,
right.
COVID had diminished. There's still people that I'm sure have not gone back to old habits. So, part of like getting the restaurant back on track was, getting ahead in a very real way of the messaging of what we were doing to keep people safe, and also, every bad time has its beautiful moments too. And, the way longtime guests turned out and the support that like only a small community can give, and it's just sweet letters of like support and messages, and you really, I think sometimes really bad times you get to see the very best and very worst in people, and if you
Right.
choose to focus on the best, it's very uplifting.
Yeah, that was one of the things, when the lockdown hit and when that was just sort of sweeping everybody's psyches here in Rhinebeck, people really rallied around. It was heartening to see how much people, stepped up with physical help or financial help or whatever.
Yeah, that's another part of this whole Gigi Road I have to speak to is the support of some really kind members of this community. It's easy sometimes, like especially when you're tired and you just feel like there's problems or like that are just insurmountable, to focus on negative things. But in every time that I've truly needed support and help, something and someone has appeared and just been absolutely magical to me, and I feel really lucky about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. So when did you feel things starting to sort of get to a new normal during the pandemic? Right? Because
I'd say 2021. We actually, there was a lot of pent up. I mean, people were still a little scared to go out, but there was that pent up need to be around people and to get out. During 2020, fortunate for two reasons. One, three. My staff, who most stayed on board and allowed me to open again, without like a lot of the snafus that a lot of restaurants had.
right.
They knew my business. They knew, like, we worked together like a beehive during the takeout only period, and reopening was made a lot easier because of them. The other thing was, during, that year I had that huge patio.
Right.
And we had a drought. So I could seat people on that huge patio. So those three factors really helped me bump through 2020. And it just, I didn't feel as panicked about that in some ways, because I felt like we were all in the same boat, and there was something I could do about it, which was dig deep into my public health background and figure out what are the things that are in my control and how do I make them happen.
Right.
And that was kind of soothing to have something to do for someone like me.
And when you say public health background, was there something in addition to being a dietitian?
No, I consider, I do a lot of writing, national writing on nutrition, which I consider public health, because,
right.
More than 50% of chronic diseases are associated with nutrition. So it's a big piece of public health in my mind, is how we nourish ourselves. And I worked in clinical hospital setting for probably about 5 to 6 years in my 20s in New York City, Memorial Sloan Kettering and New York Presbyterian. And there's just a whole different, just even by, the proximity. I worked as a dietitian in the burn center at New York Presbyterian, which was so distanced from food. Eventually, my boss looked at me and said, "You're a chef, you're a dietitian. What are you doing here? You need to be in prevention," and actually referred me over to Strang Cancer Prevention Center, which was my first road into the preventive lane. And they were opening a nutrition counseling program for prevention, and she recommended me to that position. And then I later ended up writing my first cookbook with them, the Strang Cancer Prevention Center cookbook.
Right.
So it's funny, if you let it flow, all these roads kind of criss and cross, and sometimes you feel like the journey's all on one road.
Right. But your roads clearly have crissed and crossed and stuff. So you talk about prevention. Are there things that you eat every day and you make sure that you have every day as a preventative?
Definitely berries are one. There's just enough studies on the MIND diet. MIND and Mediterranean sort of, fall into the same loop. Like MIND diet is basically the Mediterranean diet with berries.
Uh-huh.
So, for cognitive function and for all the anthocyanins and antioxidants and all the good stuff that's in them, they appear every day. Definitely some type of fatty fish a couple times a week. But I don't really, it takes a while when you're changing your diet. But when you're in a rhythm, it just becomes, I think that's why when I'm talking to people that want to talk about how they eat, I get them to focus on all the good things they should be adding to their diet rather than talking about the things they should be pulling out, because eventually all those good things are going to space out some of the things that they want to be eating less of. And
right.
Isn't it more fun to be talking about what you can have than that feeling of restriction of what you should be limiting?
Right. So berries, what else do you try to have every day?
Oh, every day.
Or, you said fatty fish a couple of times a week.
Yeah. Well, I was a founding chef nutritionist at Just Salad, and I love making creative salads. So it's not the same salad every day, but I love making salad dressings and salads, and I really kind of took that on last year at Gigi, and our guests were saying, these salad specials are, do you sell this salad dressing? And I was
that must have been fun for you.
Yeah, I still do it now. I just, because you can work with the season, you can work with leftovers, not necessarily at Gigi, but at home. And, you can, I just came up with this, put it on the menu, the lemon maple tahini, which is right in that Mediterranean lane, and it's just such a good salad dressing. And I specialed it a couple times, with different ingredients, and finally people were like, "This, we need this as an option on your takeout menus. We need, this dressing." So I like doing stuff like that, things that impart the brand, but are just little twists on what you would expect.
Right. Now you said that you like working with leftovers, and then you quickly added, at home, not at the restaurant.
Yeah.
Are there just strong regulations that you can't use leftovers
Oh
at a
no,
restaurant?
you can. I mean, there's standards in like food safety, obviously, but like, I would give like an example. Like if I had a lot of roasted cauliflower that was going into maybe one entree dish or side dish, or like we have our Sicilian cauliflower that everybody loves so much. I've already got roasted cauliflower. Why wouldn't I put that on my salad board?
Right.
Or Moroccan roasted carrots, or, I just try and see what, I have playing on other stations and then come up with some interesting salad combinations.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
And what are, right now, what are you making the salads out of? You said you're waiting for the greens to come in.
Those are more like those tender baby greens. Obviously more local arugula right now. The stuff that you'd have to buy throughout the winter would be from California or perhaps Florida. But yeah, just more local and, mosh and, little butter lettuces and, what else? What could we do? Like, everybody's asking about the ramps. It's not necessarily a salad green,
is
but
it ramp?
everybody's asking
Is it
when
ramp season now?
Yeah, it's coming. And they should be good this year, too, the mushrooms and the ramps, because it's been so wet.
Okay.
So we should actually
And
start seeing
are
a
you
lot.
much of a forager personally?
No, but the woman that developed this cocktail is.
Oh, and who is she? I'm on
She-
my second. It's so good.
She's Holly Way. She's my
right.
server captain, and she loves foraging.
Uh-huh.
So
And so do foragers come into your place and say, hey, look, I got a bunch of chanterelles or...
they do,
I've got
actually.
pounds of ramps.
Morels or, yeah.
Yeah. And you buy, so you buy from them or your chef buys from them?
Yeah, no, they'll come and they'll send them downstairs, and I'll, if I haven't already set up all the specials for the week, I'll work them into the menu.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Super local, super fresh.
Yeah, a nice surprise. Sometimes it's nice getting off path, like when you're sort of linear about what you're going to do, and then somebody
Right,
throws
nature.
all the marbles up in the air.
Nature throws you a whole ingredient that you got to use. Now, you mentioned the things that you start the day with and try to eat every week. What are some things that you love to eat but feel really guilty? Like you should not be eating at all, but once in a while you're like, I don't care. I don't care what's good or bad. I need to have.
Let me think.
And you said the good stuff sort of like
Well,
pushes out.
Like definitely, I'm not like gluten intolerant or, gluten sensitive. But if I do eat too much pizza or something like that, I really don't feel good. So sometimes that'll be something that like, it just tastes so good somewhere like Posto or wherever you're going. And it's just like, it's tasting so good. You have that extra slice would be sort of, that would be a downfall. Or, fast food I'm not really into. So that's not a thing for me. But, certainly like different organ meats, like I love like any type of liver. Shouldn't be having that all the time. But if
Right.
it's in front of me and somebody like Rich put it together, I'd say sure.
Yeah. And when you grew up, what were the things that your mom or dad or whoever did the cooking made that you really looked forward to?
My Sicilian grandmother used to make the most amazing meatballs that cannot be replicated. And she also made these really soft biscotti. And my dad tried for years to replicate that recipe.
The biscotti recipe.
I have all his old notes from all of his experiments on that. And I just remember those Sunday dinners, it was like really unbelievable rich tomato sauce, fresh, bright, delicious, her pastas. And that was the only time I was allowed to have soda. And it was funny because one of my bartenders who also helps me with prep, she's from a Sicilian, Irish-Scottish background as well. And I actually spotlighted her in the Gigi e-letter a couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago. And I said to her, we were talking about those Sunday dinners, and I said, and that was the only time I was allowed to have soda, orange soda.
Oh,
and she's like, orange soda? me, she goes, that must have been a Sicilian American thing. Because we started laughing. I think it was right around the holidays we were having that conversation because we were downstairs, like, cranking out some food and talking Sicilian shop.
Love that. And do you speak any Italian?
Abbastanza bene.
Ah.
Pretty well. I understand almost everything. I used to speak better because I had lived there for a while. I think it would come back really fast, but I have no opportunities really to share. I mean, it helps me with Spanish, understanding Spanish, not necessarily speaking Spanish.
And Spanish is like the language of restaurants.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of Spanish in kitchens and dining rooms, both.
Right. That's so interesting. And so when did you learn Spanish? When did you know you needed to learn Spanish?
Oh, I don't pretend that I can understand a conversation because of Italian, but I don't.
Right.
I don't speak Spanish. I'd be totally bragging if I said I did. Over.
But that must be helpful enough to understand. Bits.
I know enough when someone's talking about me.
Yeah. All right. Back to Grandma's meatballs. Did she never wrote anything down?
No, it was always a handful of this or a handful of that.
And your dad tried and tried and tried.
He took notes.
He watched her and took notes.
Yes.
And still couldn't do it.
Not quite.
He
got pretty close.
Do you think that she was sneaking ingredients in when he wasn't looking?
It could be.
Was she that kind of a grandma?
She was like any strong Sicilian woman, like. I remember somebody, speaking about my grandparents, and this would, I think, qualify for a lot of Sicilian women. And they said, Rosa was the man Giuseppe always thought he was.
Giuseppe was...
It's very clever. They allow someone to believe that they're completely in charge, but they're really...
It's a great saying.
Yeah.
And Giuseppe was grandpa, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And did they come to the U.S. or did
they came over through Ellis Island, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
And your dad was born here?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a...
But I've gone to just about every region of Italy, not Sardinia yet, but I am just... There's a place that feels like the minute you get off an aircraft, you're home, and it's just immediate, the feeling of just welcoming and I know our friend Jen is going to be traveling soon and, it's...
And that feeling is Italy or Sicily in general?
Both, anywhere,
right.
Like Rome,
right,
Sicily, Malpensa, wherever you're flying into, it's like... It's just magical. And then, you get so caught up in it. One time I got so caught up, I stopped at the Bubble Bar outside of Fiumicino because I was like, oh, it's going to take my Italian friends forever to get my luggage. Let's just have a glass of Prosecco. Well, I ended up leaving my credit card behind security. Joke was on me. I left my credit card behind the security gates. And then this really nice Italian driver that took me to the Airbnb, they asked me for my credit card, and I was like, oh, my goodness. And he's like, don't worry, Lauda. I know people. He's like, go to your favorite trattoria bar. Just let me know where you are, and I'll bring you your card. And sure enough, I went to a place that I've recommended to Jen, and I said, I'll be here. And then he texted me and said, I'm around the corner with your credit card.
Oh, my goodness.
That's how nice people are there. That's just so much fun.
So fabulous. And so do you have any dual citizenship?
No, I actually tried for that, but I believe your paternal, of course it has to be paternal, relative or father has to be born before 1931, I think I was told, and my father was born in 33. So I missed it by 2 years. I kind of went down that road with Smart Move Italy because I thought it would be fun to have dual citizenship. But I should check again. That was a few years ago. Things change.
I would check again. Who knows? It wouldn't be bad to have.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? And so now I want to go back to you in high school. Were you, because I'm curious how somebody chooses the path of becoming a dietitian. What were you doing when you were younger that sort of led you to that?
I think it was more about food, to be honest with you, because food led me to dietetics. when I was like a tween, I think, like around there. My parents divorced, and my mom went back to work, and I'm kind of have that helper spirit, so I started making the evening meals, and I really started to enjoy it. And so that period, I would say like 10th, 11th, 12th grade, really, started my journey in cooking.
And did you have siblings?
I have one sister, yes.
And did she help in the kitchen as well?
That wasn't her thing.
Right.
No. But I really enjoyed it, and it just, I always sort of knew I wanted to go to culinary school, but I wanted, of course, to go to college. And the closest thing to food in college was nutrition, and once I started, of course, I didn't start on that path. I was convinced I wanted to go into economics or something like that, and just really nothing. It just really wasn't feeling it. And then the minute I started taking nutrition coursework, I knew that was my spot.
Right. Wow. And now you write a lot about sort of the intersection of, dietitian stuff and food stuff and health stuff with food stuff. And your articles show up sort of everywhere. Oprah.com.
I love writing, and sometimes I think I really do express myself a lot better in writing than verbally. And it's just, for me, it's just sharing. I like spotlighting other people. I like writing about nutrition, food, and health topics. I definitely, whenever friends need like a bio or like something to update, I love interviewing them and juicing out all that interesting stuff about them.
Right.
And that's, it appears now in my Gigi newsletter. I do these spotlights every month, and that's one of my favorite parts. As much as I like writing about nutrition and food, and especially food is medicine, which is, I've been in that space for so long, to see it come to life is incredible. But I also like just sharing with people other people's journeys and what has brought them to who they are and what they do at this present time in their life, because I think all of us have really interesting stories that, and none of them are linear. A lot of them aren't planned. The best made plans usually go off the road, and then you take a better road. Yeah.
Hopefully you can find a better road.
Yeah.
No, food is medicine. Is that your phrase, or is that a phrase that predated?
Oh no, it's now actually becoming healthcare policy. It's a movement of the power and potential of food to prevent, and in some cases treat disease, mostly prevention. But it's now becoming part of the discussion of like prescription groceries, medical meals.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and even reimbursable in some cases. Not, we've got a long way to go, but it's a nice shift for the healthcare industry from treating everything symptomatically to to approaching things more from a prevention lens and seeing food right in the sweet spot of that. So I'm really excited. It's I wrote a piece for Sanctuary magazine about, I have a column there, Laura's Corner Table.
Right.
And I just love it. It's a kind of women's empowerment digital magazine. And I really enjoyed putting together like the history of food as medicine for my publisher, Myrna.
Right. Now, Gigi is delicious, a wonderful restaurant, but it's not really a food as medicine it's not frontally a food as medicine restaurant. Do you ever think of opening a restaurant that's like really full tilt? You come here for the medicine of food.
Not unless I was working in a longevity spa, because I think people really, they don't want that up front. They want to know they're doing right by their body, and they want to know that the food they're eating is sourced well. You're buying good cooking oils. You're buying good ingredients.
Sorry, go on.
And you're putting it together with like some nourishing care and thought into like the balance of color and nutrients and everything else. But they don't want it. I don't think a health food restaurant per se would do really well. I think that's why I just love working from the lens of the Mediterranean diet, because
Right.
we all agree that's delicious, right?
Yeah, and people sort of really believe that that's a healthy diet for them to have.
It's one of the most studied diets, and it's solid in nutrition science, and mostly, I mean, it's hard to study human beings in a nutritional sense. Mostly it's epidemiological studies, but it doesn't mean that other ethnic diets aren't as healthy as a Mediterranean diet. They just haven't been studied as much.
Right.
And there's like voluminous studies on the merits of a Mediterranean lifestyle eating plan.
And so it has the cachet.
Yeah, it does.
And what other diets are out there that you suspect maybe are equally healthy?
I think most diets that are rooted in whole, unprocessed food, good spices, lots of fruits and vegetables, whole grains, you could take that into just about any culture. And if you're following those principles, I think there's no reason why it can't be just as beneficial to you as a Mediterranean style diet.
Right.
So like, let's just say some of the spices and heat you get out of some Asian foods with all the vegetables, with this amount of soy, with meat, like the Mediterranean diet used more as an accessory than like a center of plate thing.
Right.
And that's the key to it all. It's like moderation, eating good quality proteins in moderation, lots of fruits and vegetables, preferably in season because they taste better, legumes, healthy fats, some wine.
Sounds pretty good. My mouth just started watering. So if you were having somebody over to your house for dinner and you were cooking and you really wanted to impress them, what would you make?
It really depends. Like, I try and play to my audience.
Right.
It's
But what dishes do you have that are like always, people are wowed by this particular dish?
it could be any number of seasonal pastas. One of my favorite dishes is like a takeoff on vitello tonato. The cold sliced veal with the tuna sauce over top, which is a great hot day meal.
Uh-huh.
But instead of veal, I use pork tenderloin, sliced paper thin, and then you have like the caper lemon tuna sauce that you put over top. It's so good, like on a hot day, just to put out spreads that people can nosh about with, room
Right.
temperature vegetables, colder meats like that. But like recently with this winter, I had some guests over, and it was the first time 4 of them were meeting. So I wanted to do something that was like more interactive and like conversational. So I did all types of fondues, which was fun because we sat around and, did our thing. I instead of the oil-based one for the meats, I did like a really rich broth to cook
Nice.
the meats, and obviously your classic cheese sauce for vegetables, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that sounds yummy.
It was
One of the
fun.
things I like about a fondue meal is it takes so long. Like you're cooking one piece of vegetable or one piece of meat at a time.
I gave them shortcuts. Like I pre-blanched the
Oh, you did?
vegetables and the meats, they just really needed to be warmed in the broth that I had done.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like a meal that sort of like takes its time to unfold and finish. My kids are like, can't you serve everything at once? I'm like, we'll take our time.
Yeah.
Fondue, I like fondue. So no oil because that's inherently
Well, just
less.
because, you just spoke about like the whole cooking thing and sitting there waiting for a piece of meat to cook. I thought it'd be nicer just to have some, just cooked meats that you could warm up in like a really flavorful broth, So, and it was fun because it got everybody, that didn't know each other engaged in conversation and about the food, about different topics, and
Yeah. How-
and then you get around the picky eater too, because you've got so many things out that can be dunked. And I went into the corner counter and I got their sparrow bush rye bread, which is to die for, and that in a good Gruyere fondue. And this was a winter for fondue.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that sounds yummy.
Yeah.
I gotta ask, how did you happen to have so many people who didn't know each other?
I like introducing people. It's part
Okay.
of the whole networking thing. Like, Jen knows I do women's networking Wednesday at Gigi. It's the second Wednesday of every month. I let people know if I'm skipping a month in our newsletter and also through our Instagram. But it's just been absolutely great. Like at Gigi all these years, there's so many wonderful women in the Hudson Valley, and I see them on any given night, and I'm like, they should know this person. And then,
Right.
but I never have them in the same space, and that's kind of how these women's networking events developed, because there's so many women I wanted to introduce to one another.
And how can people sign up for that?
They could. You can sign on to our e-letter, which I put out the first week of every month.
Is it on your website?
Yeah, there's a link to sign up.
And what's the URL?
gghudsonvalley.com.
Yeah, GIGI-HudsonValley.com.
Yeah.
And does that go to the restaurant or?
It goes to the restaurant homepage, and on that homepage there's a link to sign on to the newsletter. And I share a lot, like, recipes, community news, events that are coming up, health tips, all sorts of things in that newsletter.
That's so nice. I'm going to go sign up because I love that kind of stuff.
Oh, thank you.
And also I love the idea of you wanting to build and expand community.
Yeah, I do that too through our private room, which, on the weekends I can't necessarily do it, but during the week, if I don't have a booking, that's a great space for, just people in the community that want to come meet. During the week, if I don't, especially in the winter, but if I don't have a booking, I'm not charging a room fee. I just feel like, and they don't need to get locked into a menu or like a set price menu or anything like that. They can, we can just do light snacks or
Right.
beverages or whatever they want to do, but it's a nice meeting space, and
It's a great.
I have the room, so it just makes sense. Like, like Patricia is so great. She's got the room for you guys here to do this wonderful program, and I've got a space that, I like people to take advantage of when they need a place to meet.
Right. So how did you and your ex happen upon Rhinebeck? You were in the city.
Yeah, I was in the city. We'd actually just moved back from Italy, and I got us both teaching contracts at the CIA. I was teaching nutrition, and he was in the culinary program. And I had a year contract, and I knew it. He, after a few months, he was like, I want to go back to the city. And I was like, well, we just bought this house in Red Hook, So I stayed up here. I fulfilled my contract. I moved back to the city. And then that weekend, we were up here, I saw that sign. And I was just like, let's do it. Found the investors, made that happen. So it was really the Culinary Institute that,
Right.
was the trigger that made me look for a house up here and buy a house.
And when the sign was there, was anything else there? Was Oblong there or changes?
No. We all open. I think it's great because we're all celebrating 25 together. Oblong, changes, Hammertown, and Gigi.
All of y'all?
All opened in September 2001.
Oh, no way.
Isn't that great? Yeah.
And so 25 years is going to be this September? Is it going to be a huge party?
Yeah, I see, disco and...
Yeah, something.
Something. We got to...
Close down the parking lot and have a party there.
Oh, I used to throw wild parties at Gigi. Yeah, they were pretty crazy, and we'd clear all the tables and chairs out, and one time I had, it was a disco theme. It was Gigi 54, and I brought in all the smoke machines and strobe lights and all this stuff. Great DJ. And I forgot to tell, my alarm company that I had smoke machines in there. So as the whole party's ripping and dancing all through the building, I thought, I heard beeping and sirening, and I was like, it's just the village people. Yeah. They're playing the village people. and sure enough, Sandy Williams and his crew came through there, and they said, everybody out. And I really wanted to keep the party going, so I ran for the Jell-O shots, turned the music on outside, and as soon as he cleared the building, and Sandy came back in and said, all right, we're all clear. And they threw on, the DJ was astute enough to throw on Disco Inferno, and everybody went crazy. It was so much fun, and
what a great
I even
choice.
Got Sandy to dance with me.
Yeah. And who is Sandy? He's the head of the fire department.
Back then, he was.
Williams Lumber, Sandy.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And then I had like a Rome themed one, and I had
You had the best Halloween party I've ever been to in my life.
Oh, thank you. Maybe we should do that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I want to ask about this. One of the things I saw online, it said, today Laura's at the forefront of personalized nutrition, integrating technology and epigenetics. And I was like, what in the world is epigenetics?
Well, you can't change your genes, but you can change the way your genes respond through diet and the signals that they give. So it's the ability of diet to change the things that we can control within our bodies.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a whole new field, and actually, one group that's studying this a lot of longevity centers are, but Clinique La Prairie, which we're actually going to get a hub here in the Hudson Valley, which is really exciting. They're based in Switzerland, their main hospital. But the one and only project that's happening on the north end of the campus at the Culinary Institute will have a Clinique La Prairie longevity hub, which is really exciting because they are like studying this whole aspect of longevity through many lanes, but diet, as it reflects on diet, they have testing that, like, most of the times you go to the doctor and you get tests back that reveal like your range within normal. What they're looking at is your range for ideal of different biomarkers in your body. And I think that's the direction of nutrition and medicine is like, this is the way it occurred with vitamins and minerals. We were looking at deficiency, what prevents deficiency. Then it moved into how do I do, a little better than just like preventing deficiency. Now it's like, what level of vitamins and minerals should I be taking or getting through my food for optimum health? And that's a totally different way of looking at nutrition.
You mentioned prescription groceries, which I just love that idea.
Yeah.
And now most of these things are sort of looking to how you're feeling next week or next month, or sort of for long term. Are there short term foods that treat, say, the common cold or runny nose, or
less so? Like diet is like a long vision type of thing. I mean, certainly there's foods and things that can alleviate symptoms, but if you're really looking at prevention, you're looking at consistency, and it's not perfection either. Like if you're doing something that's good and consistent 5 or 6 days a week, you got to let it go on the other 1 or 2.
Right. And did your grandma on either side, did they have sort of like folk remedies, like, oh, you've got this, you need to eat that or drink this? Or
I really don't remember that. No. Like, for especially with all the Italian superstitions, I don't remember any of that.
And do you have any of those superstitions that you carry forth with you? That you're like, oh yeah, I got that from grandma or grandpa or great grandma? Or...
No, not really. I'm not very superstitious. I have a terrible memory. And I think it's part of the nature of, like, I work in the present and the future.
Right.
So all that stuff back there is like, it's like sometimes people will bring up stuff and I'm like, oh, that, like, I forgot about that. That's why when I actually write my life journey in The Accidental Restaurateur, I need all my girls around me to remind me of all the stuff that happened over the years, because it's just so much drama in a restaurant. Like, like if I stored all that, I wouldn't be able to function.
Right. Well, I love that. I can't wait to read that. And thank you so much for coming. We ran out of time, as always, because you're so fascinating. There's so much to talk about and a lot more to talk about. I hope maybe you'll come back.
I'd love to. Thank
everybody,
you.
Thanks for listening. Have a happy Friday. Thanks to Patricia Wend and the Epicurean for hosting us, and to producer extraordinaire Jen Hammoud for making it all happen. Have a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.